Morgan Rielly, I don't know, for whatever, maybe it's all the noise, the Leafs are soft and stuff like that, and you want to take a cheap shot on some guy that I never heard anything about until Saturday night, right? You lost the game. You let him score in the empty to take a slap shot. So now you're upset and you're pissed off that he put a slap shot in the empty net. Who cares? You lost the game. You decide to go all Dale Hunter on him, right? That's not toughness. You understand that you know what you're doing. There's consequences for your actions. You're going to get suspended a minimum of 5 to 6 games right now, right? Your defense core is hot trash right behind you, right? And now you're hurting your team so much because you can't keep your emotions in check because some guy put a slap shot into the net. An empty net. The game was over. So what? Take a note. Next time you face Ottawa, then go get back to it, right? But don't do something stupid like this where you're going to cost your team that is in a dogfight for a playoff spot right now. You are the number one defenseman on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you can't keep your emotions in check as a leader. I heard John Tavares talk about it too after the game, commending, and I get it. You got to have your teammates back here. But again, this is the same situation with the Toronto Maple Leafs where the players run the team. There was no account. If I was Sheldon Keefe, I would have called up Morgan Rielly and said that's a stupid thing to do because you understand what our defense situation is right now. And now you're going to be gone for a minimum 5 to 6 games? That it's not smart. It's not disciplined. It's flat out stupid, right? You are costing your team so much right now that we're going to talk about it later on in the show, what their defense core is going to look like for the next games as Morgan Rielly is gone. It's not tough. I saw people on Twitter and, all over the media this past week and say, oh, that's good. He stood up for our team. Oh, fine, we're changing the narrative, yada, yada. Changing what narrative? You're still soft. You cheap shot a guy. That's not... How does that make you tough? Being tough would have been, okay, we lost, but you know what? I'm not going to react. Show some mental toughness. Don't get all in your feels because some guy put a slap shot on empty net. It made no sense to me, Albert. It was stupid. It was reckless. It was careless. It cost the Toronto Maple Leafs. And quite frankly, this makes the Toronto Maple Leafs as a whole look even worse than before. They're still soft, and the best part is now they're soft, sore losers now.
I don't know. I completely disagree. Obviously, players who've played the game have no issue with it. Yeah. He had to react. This whole situation wasn't about toughness. It was about reacting to being embarrassed. They played a horrible game, so there was frustration on Morgan Rielly's part.
Deserved to get embarrassed.
And then you have a player who's played 58 games in the league decide to do that. And then you have a veteran in Claude Giroux, who's his teammate, who didn't even go to bat for him. That tells you a lot about Ridly Grieg did. Listen, am I happy about what Morgan Rielly did? As a Leafs fan, absolutely. And I think as a player, you have to react to that. You have absolutely no choice. If it wasn't Rielly, it was someone else behind that player. They're going to react to it. You have to. Did he have to cross-check him in the head? That's probably the only part that I don't like and most people don't like. But it is what it is. He had to go after the player. They were being embarrassed. And it would happen on any team in the NHL. They would react the exact same way. If you were to do that in Beer League, at Canland Sports on Martin Grove, there would be a reaction. That's hockey. That's the game. It's always been that way. This is not about being soft or being tough. But the Leafs have been trying to shed that narrative. That's a fact. We know that. They actually said it. After the Marchand situation, They had a team meeting, and they said that will never happen again. That was Ryan Reeves. So this is a part of that process. You can have multiple opinions on this thing, right? You can hate it, like it. You can dislike what Ridly Grieg did. Ridly Grieg. You can like it. Some people like the slap shot. I'm fine with the slap shot. I love this type of entertainment because it's a battle in Ontario. This game actually means something to both teams other than win or lose. It's just a built-in tradition between these two teams, and there's some sort of hatred there. And so he tried to show him up. Rielly reacted, and now here we are. So I don't think it was an act of toughness. I think it was frustration, but also a situation where you absolutely have to react to being embarrassed by the other team.
They got embarrassed, right? Because they put themselves in that predicament.
They played a horrible game. But no one is disputing that.
What my problem is this, right? You are a leader on a team. Show some leadership and play and use your head.
By not doing anything. Okay, so if he did that,
it's not his position to do anything about that.
Listen, let me ask you a question. If Greg does that and Rielly's behind him and does nothing, what's the conversation we're having today? And you're probably saying, wow, look, they don't even react to being humiliated by a guy who hasn't even played a full season in the NHL. That's exactly what you would say, and you know you would say it. And everyone else would too. So you can't have it both ways.
No, I'm not.
You cannot have it both ways.
Hold on. What I'm saying is this, right? You got embarrassed on a Saturday night against a team that you should have beat, no problem.
100%.
Absolutely, right? But he scores in an empty net. You decide instead of you could have just stopped, like skated in front of him, stopped it in front of it. What happened, like kind of at the end of the the Islanders game, right? Nobody got suspended after that. But no, you decide when he's skating back up the boards that you got to cross check him in the face, right? Again, Dale Hunter on Pierre Turgeon. There's other ways to go about it in a smarter way. Right now, Morgan Rielly it was a stupid play. It was stupid what he did. It was dumb. And the way I see it is this, right? You mentioned Ryan Reeves saying it's never going to happen again. That's Ryan Reeves' job to do something about it. Why is Morgan Rielly...
Ryan Reeves was on the bench. What are you talking
understand,
about?
but this is what I'm saying. You take a mental note of it, right? Okay, let me use an example. The Canucks lost on Saturday, right? The guy hit the gritty after the game. I guarantee you, no Canucks player did anything after the game because the game was over, right? Again, shootout, empty, different situation. But I guarantee you, and I heard post-game clippings that they will take note of that and remember it when they play on Thursday.
For sure.
Right? That is what the Toronto Maple Leafs should do, right?
But they don't play the Sens again.
I understand that you don't play, but you don't let your emotions get the best of you and put yourself in a situation now where you're hurting your team more than the situation was even worth, right? The Senators... This doesn't matter for the Senators, but this hurts the Leafs in a whole big way right now because you're losing your number one defenseman for an extended period of time. The Ottawa Senators don't care, right? But the Toronto Maple Leafs, this hurts the Toronto Maple Leafs a lot, and Morgan Rielly has to know that he's hurting his team by doing this. It is a selfish move by Morgan Rielly there. He's more useful for the Toronto Maple Leafs on the ice than sitting at home and being suspended right now.
Obviously.
Why you need to think about that?
But listen, this is heat of the moment stuff, Justin.
It doesn't matter. You have to be smarter.
This is heat of the moment stuff. I have no problem with it. And listen, I bet you there's a lot that goes into that. It's not just the slap shot. It's not just that they're losing that game. It's the direction I think that the Leafs are trending. All that into one, you get that. And I'm surprised that it's going to be an in-person hearing, which basically means a minimum of 5 games, which I believe the Leafs are probably going to appeal.
He cross-checked him in the face.
I understand that.
Blindside.
I understand that. I just wonder what the Department of Player Safety take into consideration here with this hearing.
You can't have actions like that, right? This was not even in the play of the game. This was after the play ended, right?
Right.
Morgan Rielly had every chance to do something different. He decided that he was upset that they got embarrassed on a Saturday night.
So basically you wanted him to do nothing, take note, and for the next time they play the Senators, which is next season, then react.
It does, but here's the thing, Albert. You mentioned.
But I go back to what's the conversation that we're having right now? Let me ask you this: if he didn't react, I'm asking you, what's the conversation we're having?
We're gonna say, well, why the code, yada yada.
No, what are you saying after that?
I'll say this.
You're gonna say, "Wow, Morgan Riley's smart for not reacting to that."
Are we really gonna? Would this be leading our podcast on a Monday after the loss? If he just slaps with the puck?
No, we'd be talking about
the actual game.
Right.
What are we doing right now? We're talking about this.
Actually, you know what? In this market, if that were to happen, people would speak up and be like, "Why didn't the Leafs react to that?" That would probably be dominating the discussion.
But it's not.
Today.
But that's not what happened. We're talking in factuality.
Right.
Right now, what actually happened. We're talking about right now that the Toronto Maple Leafs number one defenseman is going to be out for at least 5 to 6 games, maybe even more. I would not be surprised if he gets 7 to 10 games.
Okay, let me ask you this:
right?
Brendan Gallagher was suspended 5 games for his hit, which was so dirty against the New York Islanders.
This was not so dirty.
I understand that, but an open ice hit, puck's gone, elbow to the chicken wing, elbow to the face. One of the dirtiest players who really doesn't get suspended as much as he probably should. Is that warrant 5, 6 games? Is that as bad as that? Like you're saying it should be 5, 6, and
I think
that's where we're at. David Perron on Artem Zub.
Yeah.
The cross check, which they deem not a hockey play, which they might deem Morgan Rielly's not a hockey play. That got 6 games.
This is a factual. That's not a hockey play, right? That's why you mentioned the David Perron thing.
Right.
That's the bar, right? That's you add in the fact the game was over. There was intent, right? There was the play was over. There was intent. You know, you go for the head, right? A guy wasn't aware of anything going on.
Who?
Greg.
He wasn't aware of anything going on?
Do you think he expected Morgan Rielly to come to him and cross-check him in the face?
Did you watch the play? Did you watch the play?
Yes.
He takes a slap shot. As he's coming around the boards, he's looking over his shoulder because he's expecting a reaction. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Nobody expects to get cross-checked in the face.
He expects the player to come after him. Right? He just hot dogged in front of the team. Hey, we're beating you.
Yeah.
And here's a slap shot on an empty net. and he looks over his shoulder because he knows what's coming.
But does he expect Morgan Rielly to come and cross-check him in the face?
He better expect something.
Yeah.
At that point,
maybe like
what? He's gonna just push him. Hey, I'll get you next time.
No, maybe he grabs him or whatever. But he's a
Grabs
cross-check.
him. Justin, how long you been watching hockey for? What are you talking about? Out of all the people that I know, you've been watching hockey since you were like a baby.
Yes.
And you're telling me like he should expect him to grab him and hug him?
I didn't expect him to come there and two-hand him in the face.
The reaction,
or you can't. Okay.
Listen, at the end of the day, what Morgan Rielly did was the appropriate reaction. Sheldon Keefe is bang on. If it was so bad, hold on. If it was so bad, then a veteran, a guy so respected in the NHL, his teammate, Ridly Grieg's teammate, Claude Giroux, would come out and go after Morgan Rielly and say that was despicable. He shouldn't have done that. But he didn't. He said sometimes these things happen. No one has really come to the defense of Grieg outside of people in the media and writers. It's been players and current players who don't really have a problem with what happened. Who are we to dispute that? The guys who play the game understand. Okay, now Morgan Rielly, does this hurt his team? Absolutely. But you have to react to that situation.
You don't have to react in that way, though. That's what I'm saying. You can react.
What is he supposed to do?
I'm watching it right now.
No, forget about watching right now. What is Morgan Rielly? For you, you're the coach of that team.
Right.
What is Morgan Rielly supposed to do?
Morgan Rielly.
Or any other player that's chasing down Grieg.
Okay. Not every player is equal, right? If it was Ryan Reeves doing it or Ponte, whomever, that fine. Morgan Rielly is so imperative to the Toronto Maple Leafs' success. He has to be aware at all times that I have to make sure that I don't cost my team, right? And I understand it's the heat of the battle. I understand that you're upset, but you have to take it. You don't two-hand a guy in the face. You can hit him, you can stop him, and start a scrum, but you don't act that way. I'm not saying don't react. I'm saying react in a way where it's not going to cost you in the long run.
And also, listen, I think you're not taking into consideration the heat of the moment and what's going on. There's frustration from the game. It's the Battle of Ontario. And this guy is trying to embarrass your team.
You have to keep your emotions in check.
Doesn't it mean a whole lot more for the Toronto Maple Leafs that it's coming from a guy like Morgan Rielly than it would be Pontus Holmberg or Noah Gregor? Because you expect those guys to do that.
That's the whole point. That's why I'm so upset about it.
This is uncharacteristic of the Toronto Maple Leafs to do something like this. That it means more coming from a player who's looked at like a captain in that dressing room.
But that's exactly the point, Albert. He needs to be smarter because he's now going to get suspended for an extended period of time. This hurts the Leafs.
It is what it is, dude.
But it can't be. It is what it is.
It has to be.
If they go 0 for 6 these next games, right? Is it going to be? It is what it is still?
They could. I don't think anybody clearly in that organization or Leafs fans are upset with what Morgan Rielly
They're going to be when they lose the next 6 games.
Well, I mean, that's the situation that they're in. I should say they missed them for 17 games last season. They went 14-2-1.
But that's a different team last year than this year. We talked about that enough.
The defense isn't that different. But make of that what you will. Listen, is there a chance that they only win maybe one game in the next 5? Absolutely.
And then
is there a chance that they would come out of that stretch under 500 even with Morgan Rielly? Absolutely.
But what's going to happen if they lose the next 5 or 6 games or whatever? The tires kind of fall off, right?
Right.
Who's going to get the brunt of the blame? Morgan Rielly. I guarantee you. Okay, think about this, right? If Quinn Hughes or Philip Perona did the same thing, I'd say the exact same thing because I want them on the ice helping my team win games. I don't want my best defenseman to be sitting in the press box for 6 games for something that he could have chose not to do.
Don't you think if he gets 6 games, 5-6 games, or even more than that,
yeah,
I feel like more heat will be on the Department of Player Safety than it would be Morgan Rielly.
At the end of the day, Albert,
because of the inconsistency. I don't think Rielly takes heat for this in any way, shape, or form.
I know that's what you're saying, right? I understand that completely, right? And I get it. The player again, that Zadorov suspension was not even suspension worthy in my opinion. You're penalizing a guy because he's so much taller than Lucas Raymond. The same thing I said about the Jake McCabe situation. Players have to do a better job of putting themselves in positions to protect themselves, right? But that's an on-ice play. This was after the play. This was at the end of the game with intent, right? This was a stupid play. And that's just the way, again, you are Morgan Rielly. You need to be smarter. You need to be a leader like that. You need to be accountable. Right? I just don't think that doing this and now putting your team further behind on the 8 ball on the defense core is a smart move, especially at this time of the year. I don't agree with it whatsoever.
We'll see if it forces Tree Living's hand to accelerate trade talks. I should mention, before we break, no suspensions in Morgan Rielly's career ever. Heading into that game, the guy only had 8 penalty minutes. So I don't know if they're going to take that into consideration. Probably not. Remember the situation with Jason Spezza, where he was never suspended, needed a player in the head, ended up getting 6 games.